Hello and thanks for joining me. Today I'm just rounding out some tastings I've been doing of the white wines from Felton Road in New Zealand's centralotago region. So we're down at the South Island of New Zealand and particularly in the Bannockburn sub-region where Felton Road are one of the pioneers of growing in that area. They were established in 1991 and their first plantings were in 1992. Now this is a wine made from some of those first plantings, I understand. So Felton Road have 4 vineyards, the oldest of which is the Elms Vineyard, surrounds their winery. And the Elms Vineyard is divided into various numbered blocks, and this comes from block 2, where some of the earliest plantings of Mendoza clone Chardonnay were made. And that was quite early days for planting clonal varieties of Chardonnay in New Zealand. So reasonably good vine age with this particular wine. Felton Road are well known for the fact that they produce their wines organically and biodynamically, and they have certification for both of those through BioGrow and through Demeter. And their approach is to be meticulous in the vineyard, where they'll practice things like shoot thinning, leaf plucking, bunch thinning, and all these manipulations in the vineyard to try and enhance the ripeness of the fruit through to harvest. And hand picking is practiced, etc. In the winery, however, they're as hands-off as possible. They'll allow indigenous fermentations to take place, both in terms of alcoholic fermentation and malolactic conversion. The winery is set up for small batch production and is entirely run on gravity feed. So, and they try not to fine or filter their wines at all. So it's very much geared to sort of producing high quality fruit and then ensuring that those high quality characteristics make their way through into the wine. The soil types here, sorry, I should have mentioned, quite deep, friable, angular schist with a very thin covering of windblown loess over the top. That's quite to create soil. That's quite typical of Bannockburn as a region there. So quite friable soils that reduce vigour. So you're producing sort of high quality fruit with intense flavours. So once the fruit gets to the winery here, it's pressed as whole bunches, which gives you a nice, relatively clean juice, and then allowed to settle overnight. The juice then is run down into a cold cellar and put into seasoned oak barrels, so no new oak in this at all, where it's allowed to ferment using ambient yeasts, so either yeasts from the vineyard or that are already in the winery. That fermentation takes place and the wine stays in barrel for 16 months, during which period it does malolactic conversion with naturally occurring bacteria as well. And it's then racked and bottled. So racked off any lees that remain and bottled without fining and filtration. So just trying to keep that purity right into the bottle there. So let's have a taste, shall we? First of all, looking at the colour, you've got a medium yellow there that might be a greenish hint, but only just. Swirling it, actually tears form on the glass fairly readily. The wine has 13.5% alcohol, so that you'd expect a certain amount of viscosity. The aromas. The aromas are a combination of minerally notes and I suppose it's barrel-aged notes. There's a vivid creaminess that moves on into a butterscotch note, all sort of suggesting sort of lees age and malolactic conversion in barrel there. There's no obvious oaking influence. There might be a tiny amount of sort of toasty fermentation aroma, but it's not oozing vanilla or anything like that, as you might expect from a big barrel fermented Chardonnay. Also, there aren't any sort of the fruit nature is citrus. It's lemon. It's not even to a lime stage. and there just aren't the tropical sort of notes there. Yeah, there are some toasty notes at the end there, just suggesting barrel fermentation. So let's taste the wine. Tasting it, there's a lovely clean minerally acidity. The wine is completely dry, but the acidity is pure and mineral rather than being tart or sharp and sort of green. The sharpness, there's a lemoniness to the fruit. There's a lovely creamy texture and flavour on the mid-palate, which moves on slightly more to hints of butterscotch and perhaps I suppose a bit of buttered toast at the finish there. There is a toasty note more on the finish. The alcohol gives a little bit of roundness to the finish, but this is not a particularly full-bodied wine. It's certainly not the sort of style of barrel-fermented Chardonnay that's oozing tropical fruit at all. It's not. It's restrained. It's elegant and fine at the front palate, and it's filling out to be a more sort of buttery style on the back of my tongue there. There's a richness and a warmth, and those buttered toast notes are coming through a bit more at the finish there. The fruit, as I say, sort of citrus, maybe touches of melon, watermelon, that sort of hint there, something a bit juicy, but not juicy in terms of tropical notes. The flavours last well. This is quite a lean style. In some ways, a bit of a surprise to me. I think I was expecting a bit more weight from the wine. It makes me think of Pouilly-Fuissé, something from the southern part of Burgundy. Not necessarily because of its sort of fruit style, but more, I suppose, the fact that the oak is quite downplayed, and the malolactic conversion and the leesy notes are what's giving its round, creamy, butterscotchy notes to the finish and giving length to that. This is a wine that's coming up for being 4 years in bottle, 4 years since picking anyway, and has a little bit of development, but I suspect leaving it another couple of years will allow the fruits to open and show a bit more weight on the palate. It's never going to be a completely weighty, very weighty wine, but it's a wine that has a lovely freshness that will go nicely with lighter foods and be a lovely complement to, say, white meats and that sort of thing, particularly if you have a sauce you need to cut through, etc. So, yes, Felton Road, Block 2 Chardonnay, 2019. Thank you for joining us, and if you've enjoyed it, do watch again. Bye now.